Don't drink that, Maya whispered, her voice crisp with urgency, delivered not in English, but in perfect Italian. Marcus Langston froze, the rim of the crystal glass brushing his bottom lip. His fingers, once steady, trembled slightly as he slowly lowered the glass to the side table. His eyes snapped to Maya, and for the briefest moment, confusion overtook the usual calm confidence of a man who had built one of the most powerful cybersecurity empires in America. Italian? From her? Maya, barely 25, was a housemaid. Hired just 4 months ago, quiet, punctual, polite. But Italian fluency? That didn't fit. It didn't fit at all. What did you just say? He barked, his voice louder than intended. Several guests turned their heads, startled. The music from the string quartet paused just a beat too long. I said, Maya began, her voice shaky now, don't drink that. I believe it's been tampered with. Marcus's face flushed. Are you out of your mind? He hissed, stepping closer. You're a maid. This is a $10,000 bottle of whiskey. You don't give me orders. I'm sorry, sir, she stammered, her hands trembling. I just thought. You thought what? He thundered. That you could interrupt me in front of senators and foreign investors because you watch too many spy shows? The accusation hung in the air. Guests were watching now, pretending not to, but definitely watching. Maya's breath came faster, but she stood her ground. I have proof, she said, fumbling with her phone. Please, just look. Marcus hesitated, nostrils flaring, but something in her voice, not the words, but the steadiness beneath the fear made him pause. He reached for the phone. On the screen, grainy footage from the kitchen hallway, taken moments earlier. It showed a man in a bartender's uniform slipping a small object into his palm before preparing Marcus's signature drink. A silver ring of light from the surveillance camera briefly reflected off the vial as he tilted it toward the bottle. This story moved you even a little? Hit the like button to show your support for Maya's courage. And hey, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. You never know, someone just down the street might be watching too. And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories that remind us of the strength we all carry inside. Marcus stared, his jaw tight. The room around him blurred slightly. Then he looked up and caught a glimpse. There, near the service door, half concealed behind a heavy velvet curtain, stood a woman in an oversized trench coat and wide-brimmed hat. Her posture was too rigid for a guest. Her movements too calculated. She wasn't mingling, she was watching, hiding. Darren, Marcus growled, waving his security chief over. What is it? Darren said, his voice low. Marcus nodded toward the curtain. There, behind the door. Move now. But when Darren reached the spot, the woman was gone. Only the faint smell of lavender lingered in the air. Marcus turned back to Maya, who stood pale and shaking but still met his gaze. Where did you learn Italian? He asked sharply. My grandmother was from Florence, she said softly. She raised me. For a long moment, Marcus said nothing. He picked up the untouched glass, studied the amber liquid inside, and set it back down without drinking. The music resumed. The guests went back to their conversations. But Marcus Langston's world had just shifted and the maid who wasn't supposed to matter had just saved his life. The door slammed shut behind them as Marcus stormed into his study, Darren close on his heels, Maya trailing behind like a shadow hesitant to step too close to the fire. The ornate chandelier above them gave off a soft golden light, but the warmth was lost in the sharp tension thickening the air. Marcus paced like a man walking along the edge of a cliff. His steps were heavy, his brow furrowed so deeply it looked carved in stone. The decanter of whiskey still trembled on the sideboard of his memory, untouched but no longer innocent. Do you understand what this means? Marcus barked, spinning around to face Maya. If you're wrong, if that video was a misunderstanding, this entire evening could implode. Maya swallowed hard. I know what I saw, and I know what I heard. And who the hell was that woman? Marcus demanded, pointing toward the hallway where the shadowed figure had disappeared. She wasn't on the guest list. I don't know, Maya said, her voice still soft but steady. But she was watching you the entire night, like she was waiting. Marcus turned to Darren. I want every camera feed pulled right now. All angles, entrance, kitchen, bar. And send someone to sweep the back exits now. Darren nodded and disappeared into the hall. already tapping on his earpiece. Marcus turned back to Maya. He studied her for a long moment, like someone inspecting an encrypted file he couldn't crack. "I underestimated you," he said finally, his voice quieter. "That won't happen again." Maya didn't smile. "I didn't do it to impress you." "No," he admitted. "You did it because you saw something I didn't. That's valuable, but it's also dangerous." There was a pause. Then, with deliberate movements, Marcus walked to his antique desk, opened a drawer, and took out a small velvet box. He handed it to her. "What is this?" Maya asked. "Security clearance. A key card. It gets you into the second-floor archives and the surveillance control room. If you're going to be my eyes, I want you to see everything." Maya blinked. "I thought you didn't trust me." "I don't trust anyone," he said flatly. "That's why I'm still alive." "Oh." She held the box, surprised by the weight, not just physical, but symbolic. This wasn't just access. It was a threshold, a crossing over. "But this also means you're in," Marcus added. "Which means if you lie to me again, it won't end in shouting." Maya nodded slowly. "Understood." He turned away, toward the massive window overlooking the Hudson. "I built this company from a garage in Brooklyn. Before the venture capital, before the IPO, it was just me and a soldering iron. You think I'm afraid of some jealous ex-wife?" "You should be," Maya said, her voice careful. "If that woman at the door was Veronica, she didn't come to talk." Marcus didn't respond, but his silence said enough. Downstairs, the party began to unravel. Guests whispered, noticing the host's absence. A few already checked their phones, sensing something strange in the air, the kind of unease that only follows power gone quiet. Maya lingered in the study, her fingers brushing the edge of a framed photo on the bookshelf. Marcus and Veronica, in happier days, taken in Rome. She recognized the plaza behind them, Piazza Navona. Her grandmother had once taken her there to feed pigeons and buy roasted chestnuts. That day felt like another life now. Her thoughts were interrupted by Darren's voice over the intercom. "Sir, we've got something." They moved to the security console room, usually sealed, buried behind a false wall near the study. Darren pulled up footage from the hallway entrance. "There," he pointed. "Camera 3, timestamp, 8 minutes before Maya intercepted the drink." The footage showed the bartender walking back from the side pantry, a woman in a beige trench coat stepping into view, whispering something to him, then subtly handing him something small. A moment later, the bartender reached under the bar, fiddled with a bottle out of view, and poured Marcus's signature drink. Marcus clenched his jaw. "Is that Veronica?" The footage zoomed in. The woman wore oversized sunglasses and a scarf, obscuring most of her face. But her posture, the slight limp, it was familiar. Maya leaned in. "She's older now, but that's her, same gait. She used to favor her right hip, sciatic nerve damage, remember?" Marcus grunted, not ready to admit recognition. "Pull up the rear exit cameras. Did she leave?" "Working on it," Darren said, switching feeds. "Looks like she ducked out the staff corridor. No face shot." "So she knew the layout," Maya said, thinking aloud. "She knew where to hide, where the cameras wouldn't see her. This wasn't impulsive." Marcus stood still, like a lion trying to decide whether to hunt or retreat. Then, suddenly, he turned to Maya. "How do I know you're not part of this?" Maya didn't flinch. "Because if I were, you'd be dead already." Silence stretched between them. Then Marcus let out a dry laugh. "That's the most honest thing anyone's said to me in years." The next morning came gray and quiet, with the smell of rain in the air. Marcus canceled the meetings scheduled with Beijing, canceled the press appearance at Bloomberg, and called a lockdown on all external communications. At 10:43 a.m., the bartender was found in his apartment unconscious, a needle still in his arm. Heroin, a staged overdose. He never used, Darren reported grimly. His girlfriend said he hated needles. Marcus listened silently, his fingers steepled beneath his chin. "It's starting," he murmured. "She's not just trying to kill me, she's cleaning house." Maya stepped forward. "Then we find out what she's after." "You think it's revenge?" Marcus asked. "After all these years?" "Maybe not revenge," Maya replied. "Maybe it's something she never got, something you owe her." Marcus looked up sharply. "I owe no one. Everyone owes someone," Maya said. "Even you." "A pause. Get me a copy of every board meeting minute from the year before she left," Marcus said. and everything she accessed from her old admin terminal. Darren nodded and left the room. Maya stood quietly for a moment. And if she's not alone? If she's working with someone on the inside? Marcus looked at her, eyes colder than before. Then we flushed them out, one by one. He turned to his desk drawer again, opened a deeper compartment, and pulled out another envelope. Red seal, confidential. It bore a label in his own handwriting. Contingency B. He handed it to Maya. This is your second envelope, he said. Don't open it unless I disappear. Maya stared at it. What happens if you do? Marcus's eyes darkened. Then everything we thought was buried won't be anymore. She tucked it into her jacket, the weight of it pressing against her ribs like a second heart. And somewhere across the city, in a hotel room under a false name, a woman with a soft limp watched the news on mute. Her fingers traced a photo in her hand, an old wedding photo torn cleanly in two. She smiled. The game had just begun. Marcus Langston was not a man easily shaken, but the image of the woman lurking near the velvet curtain clung to his thoughts like wet ash. It wasn't just that she'd slipped through security unseen, it was how deliberate her presence had felt. As if she knew every camera angle, every blind spot, every weakness in a house designed to offer none. The study door clicked shut behind them. Marcus threw off his tuxedo jacket and dropped into the leather chair behind his desk, fingers steepled, eyes dark. Maya stood a few feet away, still clutching the phone with the footage. She hadn't spoken since they left the ballroom. Her heart pounded in her chest, but her expression remained fixed, determined. "Who are you?" Marcus finally asked, his tone low and steady. "I'm your maid," she said calmly, "and someone just tried to poison you." "That's not what I meant." He leaned forward. Fluent Italian, security awareness, instinct under pressure. "You were raised by your grandmother," you said. "That doesn't explain the rest." Maya inhaled slowly, choosing her words. "I was enrolled in an exchange program in Florence when I was 16. After high school, I got a scholarship to Columbia, studied linguistics and international relations. I took this job because I needed money to help my mother, not because I failed a background check." Marcus's expression didn't soften. "Why here? Why me?" She looked him straight in the eye. "Because even the rich need someone to dust their secrets." He couldn't help the small twitch of a smile. It vanished quickly. He stood and walked toward the window, gazing out at the dark stretch of the Hudson River. "I built Langston systems to be untouchable," he said. "Private servers, encrypted vaults, data security that can outsmart half the governments on this planet. But you're telling me someone walked into my home and tried to kill me with a $20 bottle trick." "They knew you'd be off guard," Maya said. "The party, the guests, you'd drink out of habit." Marcus turned back, his jaw tightening. "You're suggesting Veronica orchestrated this, that she got a stranger inside with poison, that she planned it all from Palm Beach." "I'm saying you shouldn't underestimate her," Maya replied. "And you already know that. That's why you gave me the envelope." Marcus walked to the wall and pressed a discreet panel. A hidden door slid open, revealing a monitor wall with access to live security feeds and archives. Darren was already there, scrolling through time-stamped footage. "Find the woman by the curtain," Marcus said without preamble. "Already on it," Darren replied. "Camera 7 caught her briefly when she left the main hall. Facial recognition is running now." Maya leaned in as the footage replayed. The woman moved with intention, almost too slowly, like someone performing a role. Her face remained turned from the camera, her scarf adjusted carefully to hide her jawline. "She knew the layout," Maya murmured. "She knew where the cameras couldn't reach." Marcus folded his arms. "That means she's been here before." "She's more than familiar," Darren said grimly. "She's either an ex-staffer or she had inside help." "Veronica had a copy of the old house plans," Marcus said, his tone sharpening. "When we were married, she oversaw the remodeling." Darren looked up. "So we assume it's her?" Marcus didn't answer right away. Instead, he tapped his fingers on the armrest, calculating. "We confirm before we accuse," he finally said. "If we're wrong, and this gets out, it'll look like desperation." Maya stepped closer. "And if we're right, then she's already ahead of us." That night, Marcus didn't sleep. Neither did Maya. At 3 a.m., Marcus summoned her to the surveillance room. A facial recognition hit had come back. Name, Elena Bianchi, Darren reported. Dual citizen, American and Italian. Passport flagged in Naples. Former assistant to Veronica Langston fired 2 years ago under non-disclosure terms. No criminal record. Maya's brow furrowed. She was at the house before? Twice, Darren confirmed. Last recorded visit was 14 months ago. Veronica brought her as a consultant during a foundation gala. Marcus narrowed his eyes. If she's involved, she's not acting alone. Someone had to let her in. They reviewed the guest list. 68 confirmed attendees, most of them handpicked by Marcus's PR team. But as they combed through the names, one stood out. Julian Carr. Maya's stomach dropped. Julian? He's your head of acquisitions. He's also Veronica's cousin, Marcus said flatly. The pieces began clicking into place. A half hour later, Marcus called Julian's cell, straight to voicemail. By morning, Julian's condo in Tribeca was empty. Gone. Marcus poured himself a new glass of whiskey, but this time from a sealed bottle he opened himself. She's not trying to kill me, he said quietly. She's trying to unravel me. Maya tilted her head. How? By creating doubt. In my staff. In my board. In me. What's the best way to destroy someone who's paranoid? Make them question everything, Maya answered. He nodded. Exactly. And if Julian planted something inside our financials, if he's been leaking information, we need a full internal sweep, Maya said. Emails, calls, physical access logs, everything since the acquisition deals last quarter. Marcus picked up his landline and called his CFO. Cancel the Zurich meeting. Lock down all third-party accounts. And find me every file Julian Carr touched in the last 6 months. Then he looked at Maya. You're not just a maid anymore. You're my internal eyes now. Maya didn't flinch. Then we start with the paper trail. By the end of the day, they had unearthed 2 encrypted emails sent from Julian's corporate laptopone, flagged to a private server registered in Albania, and a second, sent 1 hour after the party, containing a single document attachment, a board resolution draft proposing the early removal of Marcus Langston as CEO. Maya stared at the screen, jaw tight. He's trying to trigger a no-confidence vote. Marcus exhaled sharply, eyes closed. He's setting the dominoes. They were being attacked from inside. He looked at Maya. We don't have days to react. We have hours. I need access to the finance records, she said. Private meetings, off-ledger accounts, anything that hasn't been audited yet. You'll have it, Marcus said, but be ready. The people behind this, they're not amateurs. Maya's gaze was steady. Neither am I. That night, Maya returned to her modest apartment in Harlem. As she locked the door behind her, she noticed something unusual. A plain white envelope slid halfway under her doormat. She picked it up carefully. No name, no return address. Inside was a single photograph. Marcus, seated in his study. Her, standing behind him. And in the corner of the frame barely visible was the reflection of a woman in a scarf watching them through the glass. On the back, one sentence was scrawled in elegant handwriting. You're already part of this. Maya's hands trembled, and for the first time since this began, she realized this wasn't just Marcus's game anymore. She was on the board too. The photo weighed heavy in Maya's hand, more than paper ever should. Her apartment was still and dim, the only light a faint glow from the lamp beside the kitchen table. Outside, the Harlem streets whispered their usual late-night lullabies, distant sirens, the hum of traffic, the occasional shout, but none of it penetrated the cold that settled in her bones. She studied the photograph again, her standing behind Marcus in his study. A shot that could have only been taken from outside the house, through the high window overlooking the west garden. And there, in the reflection, that same woman's scarf drawn tight, features obscured, but watching. Who had taken this? And more importantly, when? The handwriting on the back made her stomach twist. You're already part of this. It wasn't a threat. It was a reminder. She was on the board now, and someone wanted her to remember that every move had consequences. The next morning, Maya arrived at the Langston estate earlier than usual. Marcus was already in the library, reading through a bound financial report with a grim expression. The fire was lit. His suit was dark, pressed, but there was something disheveled in his posture, like a man sitting inside a crumbling fortress, still pretending he commanded the gates. I got a message, Maya said without preamble. setting the photo on the table in front of him. Marcus studied it for a long moment, then flipped it over. Hand delivered. Yes, under my door. No name, no camera, no one seen in the building. He didn't speak for several seconds. Then he looked up at her. They're watching you now. That's what this is. I know, Maya said quietly. But they've made one mistake. Marcus arched an eyebrow. Which is? They think I scare easy. He allowed a thin smile at that, brief but genuine. Then it vanished. We have a leak somewhere, not just Julian. This photo proves someone else has access, proximity, planning. We need to clean house. Ugh. They're not just leaking, Maya said. They're listening, watching, planning each move to get you off balance. Darren entered just then, tablet in hand. We found the IP source of Julian's last data transfer. It's routed through 3 servers, Berlin, Dubai, and finally Bucharest. The final hop used an encrypted VPN traced to a warehouse in Queens. Marcus stood immediately. Queens? Abandoned property. Belongs to a shell company that Veronica helped incorporate back in 2014. Real estate holding. Inactive for years until last week. Marcus turned to Maya. We're going. You're bringing me? You're already in it, he said simply. They arrived in Queens under a cloudy sky, the kind that promised rain but refused to deliver. The warehouse was nondescript, boarded windows and rusted doors, surrounded by chain-link fencing. Marcus had Darren disable the outer cameras before they even approached. Inside, the place reeked of dust and damp concrete. But amid the decay, there were signs of recent activity footprints in the dust, coffee cups, a laptop dock without the laptop. Maya swept the area carefully. No signs of forced entry. Whoever was here had keys, access. Darren knelt near a power box, checking the wiring. Someone was using this place as a drop, temporary relay for files. Probably encrypted flash, transfer sold school, hard to trace. Marcus turned in a slow circle. Veronica always liked chess metaphors. She used to say, control the board, don't chase the pieces. This place isn't the attack, it's the distraction. Maya's eyes scanned the walls. Her gaze landed on a bulletin board nailed above a folding table. A single photo was pinned there. It was Marcus, from a year ago, shaking hands with Senator Griggs at a charity gala. A red X was marked over the senator's face. Who's he? Maya asked. Old ally. More bark than bite. But he blocked a cybersecurity bill last month, one that would have benefited Langston Systems. Maya frowned. Are we sure this is about you personally? What if this is bigger? Bigger than killing me? Marcus asked. Yes, she said. What if your death is just the first domino? What if the plan is to make your company fall and bring the political support around it down too? Darren stiffened. That would mean coordinated attack. Layers. Government. Corporate. Personnel. It would mean war, Marcus finished. And we're already behind. That night, Maya pored through old news articles, public filings, tax records. She traced Elena Bianchi's digital footprint and found a series of travel records tied to a corporate credit cardone registered to a Luxembourg account. That same account had made 3 wire transfers to Julian Carr's personal account in the past 6 months. The pattern was becoming clear. Elena was the messenger. Julian was the insider. Veronica was the strategist. And behind them, something larger, something unnamed was pulling strings. At 2:12 am, Maya's phone buzzed. Unknown number. 1-word text. Run. She stared at it, then heard it, the soft shuffle outside her apartment window. Maya moved fast. She grabbed the go bag she'd kept under her bed, an old habit from her days shadowing diplomats as a student researcher overseas. She slipped out the back stairwell, adrenaline firing through her limbs. From the alley, she watched as 2 figures approached her apartment door. One held a crowbar, the other held what looked like a signal jammer. They weren't there to steal. They were there to silence. She vanished into the night. By sunrise, she was at Marcus's house. Her clothes damp, her hands scraped, but her voice steady. They know who I am, she said as soon as he opened the door. They came for me. Marcus didn't ask for proof. He only stepped aside and let her in. You still think you're just a maid? He asked. Maya didn't answer. She didn't have to. They were both at war now, and the first move had been made. The Langston estate was unusually quiet that morning. as if the house itself sensed the tension building within its walls. Marcus stood in the great room near the fireplace, dressed in dark slacks and a plain navy sweater, the elegance of his usual tailored armor replaced with something more utilitarian. He watched Maya sip coffee from a porcelain cup, her hands still slightly trembling, the thin red scratches on her wrists a stark reminder that danger was no longer abstract. "They came to kill you," he said. "It wasn't a question." "They didn't knock," Maya replied, her voice dry. "I didn't wait to see what they had in mind." Marcus nodded slowly, hands behind his back. "We'll have to relocate you." "No," Maya said. "They expect that. If I disappear, we lose eyes on whatever they're planning next. I'm staying." He turned to face her. "You're not trained for this." "I've survived worse," she said. "And if I leave now, they win. They want fear. I won't give it to them." Marcus studied her with that same cold precision he used when reviewing million-dollar contracts. She held his gaze. Finally, he looked away. "Very well," he said. "But from this moment on, you're not just helping. You're part of the core." Maya nodded. "So what's our next move?" Marcus gestured toward the dining table, where Darren had spread out a digital schematic of Langston Systems headquarters. "We believe Julian embedded a backdoor into our internal data exchange during the last acquisition cycle. Maya, we need to access his archived login credentials, see where they lead. Darren is coordinating with cybersecurity. You'll assist." Maya sat down beside the screen. Darren didn't say much. He still didn't fully trust her, but he no longer underestimated her. That was progress. As they scrolled through the metadata trails, a cluster of log entries caught Maya's eye. "Here," she said, pointing. 2 weeks before the gala, Julian accessed an internal subdirectory marked VRS. That's not part of the standard archives. Marcus stepped closer. That's Veronica's initials. She had a private dev environment back when she consulted for the board. "Why would Julian be accessing her files?" Darren asked. "To replicate them," Maya said, "or to reinitialize dormant scripts." They pulled up the logs. Inside the subdirectory, a fragment of code blinked at them. It was labeled Chimera, VR-SAN experimental AI protocol Veronica had developed, and Marcus had shelved. It was meant to predict market reactions to security threats, but it had been deemed too unstable for deployment. Marcus's expression darkened. "If she's reactivated Chimera, she's planning a financial strike." "How?" Darren asked. "By simulating a breach," Marcus said. "A fake hack that looks real enough to trigger stock collapse, investor panic, media backlash. Chimera could craft a narrative faster than we can disprove it." Maya leaned back. "They're not trying to kill you anymore, Marcus. They're trying to erase you. Henoted. Total wipeout. Reputation. Company. Legacy." Darren turned to Maya. "You've worked with foreign systems. Can Chimera be controlled once it's active?" Maya shook her head. "Not unless you have root access. And from these logs, it looks like Julian cloned the environment. He may have already handed it off to an offshore server." Marcus clenched his fists. "Then we go to the source." You mean Veronica?" Maya asked. "Yes," he said. "If she started this, she'll know how to end it. We confront her directly." Darren frowned. "That's a risk. We don't know where she is." "We do now," Marcus replied, holding up a red envelope. "This arrived this morning." He opened it. Inside was a handwritten note. In Veronica's unmistakable cursive, "Meet me where we ended. Noon. No one else." Below the message was a set of GPS coordinates. Marcus handed the card to Maya. "It's the Vineyard," she said. "The one in upstate New York. You took her there after the merger signing." Marcus's face gave nothing away. "She's playing her own game now, but if she's asking for a meeting, it means we've struck a nerve." Darren stood. "I don't like it. Could be a trap." Marcus shrugged on a coat. "Of course it's a trap. That's why I'm going." Maya stood as well. "Then I'm coming with you." "No," Marcus said firmly. "If something goes wrong, I need you here, tracking Chimera, coordinating with Darren. You're my contingency." Maya looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. "Then you better wear something bulletproof." 2 hours later, Marcus arrived at the vineyard alone. The rows of vines were bare this time of year, skeletal against the pale winter sky. He walked the gravel path toward the tasting room. its rustic wooden sign swinging gently in the wind. Veronica was waiting inside. She stood near the large fireplace, a glass of wine in one hand, her dark coat blending into the shadows. Her hair was longer now, streaked with silver, her face elegant and unreadable. "Marcus," she said without looking at him, still punctual. "I was taught to respect my enemies," he said flatly. She smiled. "Is that what I am?" He didn't answer. She turned to face him. "You always did like control, even when it meant sacrificing everyone around you." He stepped closer. "You tried to poison me." "No," she said, sipping her wine. "I tried to warn you. You've built a castle on secrets, Marcus. The foundations are rotting. And Julian, Elena, Chimera, what do you call those?" "Insurance," she said calmly, "in case you didn't listen." "What do you want?" he asked. "Truth," she said. "Exposure. The world needs to see what you buried. The surveillance contracts, the offshore accounts, the experiments on user behavior. You turned a company into a weapon." Marcus's jaw tightened. "So you destroy everything?" "No," she said. "I reveal everything. Then let it collapse on its own." He took a step forward. "I can fight you, Veronica, and I will." "I know," she said, "but you're already losing." He turned and walked out, her words following him like smoke. Back at the estate, Maya and Darren worked around the clock. They traced Chimera's activation signal to a server farm in Reykjavik. The breach simulation had already begun. Thousands of bot accounts were flooding financial forums, planting stories of a catastrophic leak inside Langston systems. By midnight, 2 investment funds had frozen trades. The stock dipped 14%. Marcus returned with a face like granite. "She's not bluffing. We need to shut Chimera down," Maya said. "We can't," Darren replied. "It's self-replicating across blockchain contracts. Every minute we wait, it embeds deeper." Maya looked at Marcus. "Then we need to outsmart it. Feed it a false narrative. Beat it at its own game." Marcus leaned forward, the firelight catching the edge of his profile. "Then we write a new story," he said. "One that makes Veronica the villain." And just like that, the war for the truth turned into a war for public perception. The first move had failed, but the counterattack was coming. The morning sun broke reluctantly through the gray Manhattan skyline, casting long, cold shadows across the Langston estate. Inside the war room, what used to be Marcus Langston's formal library monitors glowed with live data feeds, international stock indexes, and a growing web of digital misinformation fueled by Chimera. The headlines were beginning to shift. Langston systems under cybersecurity scrutiny. Internal leak suggests massive privacy violations. Investors pull support amidst AI breach rumors. All fabricated. All seeded by the rogue AI protocol that Marcus and Veronica once built together and that she had now unleashed. Marcus stood at the center of the room, arms crossed, the lines on his face deeper than they'd ever been. He hadn't slept. Darren stood beside him, parsing the firewall reports. Maya moved between screens, compiling anomalies and pattern maps. She had become the brain of the operation, her mind racing faster than the artificial intelligence they were fighting. "We're not just dealing with a smear campaign," Maya said. "We're facing algorithmic warfare. Chimera doesn't just post remorse, it builds credibility, fakes engagement, manipulates emotional triggers. It's rewriting the truth in real time." Marcus nodded. "And the longer it runs, the more it poisons the public narrative." Darren slammed his hand against the desk. "Then why don't we go public? Expose Veronica. Release the footage of Julian's betrayal. Take control of the narrative." Maya shook her head. "It won't work. Not yet. If we speak out now without something bulletproof, Chimera will twist it. It'll look like panic." Marcus turned slowly toward the center monitor. A single headline caught his eye. "Anonymous insider leaks. Langston Systems concealed government spying deal." He exhaled through his nose. "They're going after the contract." Maya's fingers froze on the keyboard. "Which one?" "The Phoenix Directive," Marcus said. 5 years ago, Langston Systems partnered with a federal agency to test encrypted behavioral surveillance in only small scale. But no one ever opted in," Maya finished. He looked at her. "I shut it down. 2 weeks in, it never went public." "Until now," Darren said grimly. Maya stood. "That's our pivot. If we're going to survive this, we use the truth, the whole truth." Preempt the leak with full transparency. Own it before they weaponize it. Marcus hesitated. That contract is classified. If I break silence, I'm exposing more than my company, I'm implicating the government. Maya's eyes didn't waver. Then do it right. Frame it as regret, as reform. If you tell the world the truth and offer a plan to fix it, you become the whistleblower, not the villain. He didn't speak, but his jaw tightened. He looked out the window at the skyline, the empire he'd built, now trembling under the weight of his past. An hour later, in the media conference room, Marcus sat under soft lights, a single camera trained on him. No fanfare, no background. Just a man in a chair, speaking plainly. My name is Marcus Langston, he began. I built Langston Systems to protect people, but 5 years ago, I approved a program that went too far. It was called the Phoenix Directive. His voice was steady, measured. He detailed the contract, the testing, the decision to terminate it, and the mistake of burying the record instead of owning it. He didn't flinch. He didn't deflect. When it ended, the footage was immediately uploaded across verified news outlets, with metadata and internal memos released alongside it. Within hours, the online tide began to shift. Comments poured in. I don't trust corporations, but at least he admitted it. He came clean. That's more than most. So the ex-wife is the one who leaked it? Why now? By noon, the damage had been contained. Chimera adapted, but slower this time, uncertain how to spin truth so willingly offered. The AI had been designed to exploit silence, not candor. Still, it wasn't over. Later that day, a private intelligence contact called Darren. We've picked up chatter, the voice said over encrypted signal. Elena Bianchi is in New York. She met with an operative tied to a shadow lobbying firm, codename Candlepoint. Maya's eyes narrowed. That's who's funding this. They specialize in corporate collapses, the voice said. Short, cell manipulation, blackmail, narrative warfare. If Veronica brought them in, this is bigger than revenge. Marcus stood. Then we take the fight to them. He looked to Maya. You said once you worked with diplomats. Did you ever work with counterintelligence? I wasn't cleared for field ops, she said, but I learned how to follow shadows. Good, he said, because we need a ghost. That night, Maya went undercover. She slipped into a networking gala held by a think tank with known ties to Candlepoint. With her background in languages and high society etiquette, she moved unnoticed, blending in among consultants and data engineers. She wore a navy cocktail dress, carried a forged badge, and listened more than she spoke. An hour in, she heard the name Veronica Langston spoken softly at a table near the back. A man with a sharp British accent, gray at the temples, said, she wants the board shaken before the end of the quarter. Leverage internal chaos. Break Langston's vote of confidence. The woman beside him laughed lightly. And then what? She replaces him, with Julian, if he resurfaces, or someone more. Compliant. Maya turned slightly, phone in hand, recording the exchange. And the AI? The woman asked. Still active, still feeding doubt. One more push and the stock collapses. The British man sipped his drink. Tomorrow morning, we leak the false arrest warrant. Fraud, bribery, whatever looks worst. That'll finish him. Maya's pulse spiked. She left quietly, then raced back to Marcus. We have a name, she said. Candlepoint. And we have their plan. Marcus listened carefully. They're going to use the justice system now. Discredit me legally. We need to discredit them first, Maya said. And we need to do it tonight. They launched the second strike. Marcus's media team, backed by legal analysts and Darren's cyber unit, prepared a dossier on Candlepoint's known tactics. Old cases, paid witnesses, falsified reports. Maya's audio was embedded in the release, confirming active manipulation of financial systems to influence public companies. At 3 a.m., the expose went live. Shadow firms and the corporate coup, how truth is being bought and sold. By sunrise, Candlepoint's name was trending on every major outlet. Congressional members called for an inquiry. Journalists dug deeper. And Veronica? She disappeared. Her last known contact pinged a server in Geneva. The trail went cold. But Marcus didn't celebrate. Not yet. That afternoon, he stood with Maya on the balcony of his estate. The city sprawled before them, The chaos now paused but not silenced. "You saved me," he said. Maya shook her head. "You saved yourself. I just helped you see how." He nodded, then handed her a small envelope. "Open it." Inside was a formal document. Special Advisor to the Executive Board, Crisis Intelligence Division. "You want me to stay?" she asked. "I want you to lead," Marcus said. "And I want you to teach me what I forgot how to see people, not just numbers." She smiled quietly. "Then let's rebuild, but this time, without the shadows." The war had not ended, but the enemy had been named, and the first truth had won. The days that followed the Candlepoint exposé brought a calm that felt almost alien within the walls of the Langston estate. Headlines reported investigations into offshore corporate influence. Congressional hearings were scheduled, and the stock stabilized, but that calm masked a simmering threat neither Marcus nor Maya could ignore. Morning light filtered into the great room as Marcus entered, polished cup of black coffee in hand. Maya was already at the digital command center, reviewing security logs. Papers and tablets lay scattered, evidence of a war still unfolding. The tagline blinking on the main monitor. Alert, unauthorized access attempt. Internal server, 2:47 a.m. Marcus studied her profile. "You barely sleep." Maya didn't reply. She didn't need to. Her eyes were haunted, tired from nights spent chasing shadows, piecing together fragments of digital breadcrumbs. But this morning, she was the picture of controlled focus. He moved to stand beside her. "What happened?" "Someone tried to break into our internal server anonymized VPN, but trace shows exit nodes from Singapore and Estonia." He frowned. "Leftovers from Chimera?" "Maybe," Maya replied. "Or someone trying to reset everything. If they have Candlepoint's help, they're not giving up." "I can't identify an IP, but the attack pattern matches the step before the Phoenix directive leak." Marcus nodded. He planted his coffee, leaned forward. "We can't just react. We have to disrupt." Maya glanced at him. "A step ahead?" "Exactly." She tapped a few keys, accessing threat intel feeds. "We'll need to disrupt their infrastructure. Go offensive." He nodded. "But covert." The room hummed with the soft buzz of fans and data streams. Darren appeared at the doorway. "We're ready to pull all internal servers offline and redeploy with new segmentation. Also, board wants immediate briefing." Maya nodded. "Let me prep the slide deck." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Slide deck?" She offered a thin smile. "People still understand PowerPoint." He let out a short laugh and walked to the balcony, looking down at the quiet streets. "Can't believe how fast everything escalated." "You started it," Maya said from behind. He didn't turn. "Maybe. And now I have to live with it." She joined him. "You did the right thing. You drew a line." He sipped his coffee, took a deep breath, and lost Veronica. She got away. Maya's voice softened. It was never about winning her. It was about protecting this. He nodded and looked out again. "Then let's protect it." Later that morning, the boardroom was filled with tension. Executives sat around the long table, smartphones muted but attention sharp. Marcus, Maya, Darren, and the CFO formed a tight quartet at the head. Marcus began the meeting. 2 weeks ago, we responded to a destabilization campaign orchestrated by a rogue AI and a shadow lobbying group. We chose transparency, not denial. That decision slowed the attack, but it didn't stop it. He outlined how Chimera has been partially neutralized, but attacks via proxy servers continue. Maya presented snippets of recent intrusion logs and explained the offensive blocking plan, rerouting traffic, predictive AI filtering, preemptive false flags to confuse Candlepoint's network. Darren added, "We are also launching technical counter-probe-simulated vulnerabilities to attract their bots, reveal their architecture." A senior executive spoke up, "Won't this accelerate the cat and mouse game? If they know we're fighting back," Marcus met his gaze, "then they'll show their hand. We need visibility." The CFO interjected, "But we must remain discreet. Revealing these moves publicly would alarm investors." Marcus nodded, "Which is why none of this leaks. Not a word outside this room." The board approved the plan. They moved to implementation immediately. The cybersecurity team and Maya worked in tandem to deploy behind-the-scenes defenses, rerouting traffic through decoy nodes and trapping incoming bots in virtual quagmires. That evening, Maya received a text. Meet me, 11 p.m., Riverside Park gazebo. No signature, no name, just a place and time. She closed her laptop and told Marcus. He tensed, but nodded. We handle it together. At 11 p.m., a cold breeze drifted over the park near the Hudson River. The gazebo stood silent, lit dimly from above. Marcus and Maya approached quietly. A figure sat on the bench. Elena Bianchi. She looked up, eyes tired but defiant. You're relentless. Marcus stepped closer. Where's Veronica? Elena shook her head. I don't want you to kill her. Marcus's jaw clenched. Then start talking. Elena exhaled. Veronica started this to expose you, not to kill you. But Candlepoint went too deep. Now they've turned her into a tool. Maya's voice was icy. Why risk your life for her? Elena's lower lip trembled. I never believed in revenge, but I believed in consequences. She told me the company had become dangerous. She wanted to reset the mission, not take it further. Marcus scanned her face. Where is she now? Geneva, Elena said quietly. She's been making calls, leaving breadcrumbs for you. She didn't want to break you completely, just wake you up. Maya met Marcus's eyes. He looked away. Elena continued. Candlepoint is panicking. They've already initiated another wave. If this counterprobe works, they'll divert. But Veronica, she's in the crossfire. Marcus's shoulders tensed. Then we get her first. Elena gave them coordinates, a safe house outside Geneva, and she left. Back in Manhattan, they prepared teams for the Swiss mission. But first, this park encounter was recorded discreetly via drone footage Marco's teams already deployed. The next morning, global markets reacted. Geneva dispatches leaked. Langston operatives seen outside safe zones. Candlepoint's narrative shifted. Again, they claimed Langston was hunting wrongfully across borders. But that didn't matter. The move forced Candlepoint to reveal their sources, diverting attention from Chimera and Phoenix Directive. Maya poured coffee in the kitchen. This fight isn't over. Marcus watchfully placed an addendum into the morning intel briefing. We know where Veronica is. We're not looking for vengeance. We're looking for resolution. Maya's expression sharpened. And recovery. He looked at her. Yes, recovery. That night, as they geared up securing flights, intelligence, secure comms, Maya reflected on how far she'd come. From maid to crisis chief, fighting shadows at Marcus's side. And now, heading into the teeth of the storm, the game had advanced. But this time, they would face it together. The war was far from over. The flight from JFK to Geneva seemed endless, spanning nearly 8 hours. But for Maya and Marcus, each minute passed like seconds. They traveled under the guise of a private consultancy, tripboarding separately, using aliases, and carrying only encrypted devices. Marcus wore a sharp charcoal suit and pressed white shirt. Maya chose dark slacks and a smart jacket, blending into the business class crowd. The journalistic scrutiny on Marcus had quieted after the Candlepoint exposé, but they couldn't risk drawing even a glance. Once airborne, Maya reviewed the dossier. Veronica's trail ended in a modest chalet in the Swiss Alps, not far from Geneva's outskirts. The coordinates were clear, the intel recent. Their mission: find Veronica, understand her involvement, and determine whether she was friend or foe. When they landed late that afternoon, Geneva's air was crisp, tinged with pine and mountain breeze. They moved quickly through customs, their hair and clothes fitting the local Swiss demeanor, calm and professional. No hassling, just smooth passage. A black sedan met them outside. The driver was a discreet professional, delivering them to a nondescript meeting point near the countryside. There, they met Derek Albright, a liaison from Europe-based cybersecurity firm partnering with them. Tall, stern, with streaks of gray, he'd helped track Chimera's network in Reykjavik and had been waiting for them since dawn. In the car, Derek said, "We know Candlepoint controls 2 safe houses in the region, one abandoned, one active. Your asset Elena Bianchi identified the chalet, but its security cam network is owned by Candlepoint. I've got entry mapped, but not clearance. Let me deploy the bug sweeps. We need time." Marcus nodded. "Time isn't a luxury we have." Derek turned to Maya. "Your presence complicates it. They'll recognize you once you get close." Maya cut in. I can get in under the radar. I'm not on any watch lists. Besides, I speak Italian. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Italian? She gave him a small smile. Florence roots. And Milan years. I'll handle entry. You and Derek provide backup and situational control. The driver navigated the winding roads, forcing them through forested slopes and narrow passes. Snow dusted the ground even though it was early spring, an odd quirk of alpine weather. The chalet appeared before them. Wooden, 3 stories, shutters closed, smoke curling from the chimney. Derek killed the engine. There, that's your target. They exited. Derek planted signal wipes nearby. Marcus checked his watch. 7:13 p.m. Dusk fell quickly in the mountains. They approached the chalet from the back. Maya moved ahead, crouching to peer through a side window. She signaled. Inside, she saw Veronica. Her hair pulled back, coat draped over kitchen chair, sitting at a large wooden table covered in maps, laptops, papers. She looked weary. Maya tapped Marcus lightly. She's alone. No guards. Marcus nodded. Elena didn't mention any. Maya glided to the back door, tried the knob locked from the inside. She stepped back, gave a barely perceptible knock. Silence. A second knock. Still quiet. Marcus, she whispered. You want me to go in alone? He hesitated, then nodded. Yes, get her face to face. Maya raised an eyebrow. If it turns bad, he's here, Marcus said, pointing. In the chalet. I'm not sending you in blind. Maya nodded, squared her shoulders, and tried the knob again. It clicked. They heard a rug shuffle inside. Then the door opened. Veronica stood there in a wool sweater and wool cap, snow-damp hair or silver-streaked. She looked tired, but defiant. Marcus? She asked. Surprise threading in her voice, then guilt or shame flickered and vanished. Before he could reply, Maya stepped in. We need to talk. Veronica hesitated. She surveyed Marcus, then Maya. Very well. They entered the kitchen, the only lit space in the chalet. Outside, the wind howled softly. Inside, the space was warm but sparse, lived in with intention. A kettle steamed over a small burner. Marcus cleared his throat. Let's skip the preamble. Veronica inhaled once. This was supposed to wake you, not hurt you. Candlepoint changed things. Marcus' eyes flared. They're behind everything. Your plan, Evelyn's escalation. Not mine, she interrupted. Candlepoint's. They offered funding, technical resources. They manipulated Elena and Julian. They turned this into a coup. Maya stood off to the side, silent, assessing. Your love for truth is genuine, Veronica continued softly. But your empire, it's too comfortable. It ignored its flaws for too long. Marcus's muscles tightened. So you brought them in to shake it down? She swallowed. To break it open, to force accountability. I delivered that. And then you left them to finish the job. She didn't answer immediately. I tried to pull back. I tried to shut Chimera down. Elena sided with me. But Candlepoint locked me out. Now they're acting without me. Maya stepped forward. They're planning more than leaks. The next wave they'll move on Phoenix contracts. Official investigation, guilty verdicts. You know that. Veronica nodded. They do. I didn't sign up for collapse. That's why I asked for this meeting. Marcus paced to the window, making his breath frost against the glass. Are you here to save me or to let me die in your wake? Veronica's eyes filled. I just wanted you to wake up. I didn't want this war. That war is here, Maya said softly. They're going to take everything, Veronica said quietly. I can still fix this. How? Marcus asked. She met his gaze. We take Chimera offline. Rip the network apart. Expose Candlepoint. Show the world they're a corporate mercenary firm. Maya interjected. We've started that. The expose in the US is already gaining traction, but we lacked the final proof Candlepoint's involvement in this Swiss operation. Veronica reached under the table and pulled out a USB stick. They left trail. I hacked one server. This contains internal campaign files, meeting transcripts, email threads, transfer logs. Marcus took it, a tense beat. Why trust this now? Veronica's eyes glistened. Because I helped write them. And I'd rather die anonymous than see you destroyed. Silence filled the space. Outside, night had settled fully, snow standing in the trees like silent watchers. Maya flipped open her tablet. She connected it to the USB. "We'll verify this tonight." Marcus nodded at Veronica. "Stay here. No one betrays me again." Veronica swallowed. "Then let's finish it." They spread documents across the table. The chalet, once a quiet rural escape, became a bunker of urgency. Lines of code and screenshots glowed beneath the lamp. Candlepoint schematics, financial records, emails, reducing wallets to instructions. Trigger second wave. Blame Swiss regulators. Create international scandal. Maya played a voice transcript, a Candlepoint analyst discussing financial kill switches tied to leaked video of Langston compliance with Phoenix surveillance. The voice was male, clipped British accent. "It's him," Veronica said. "Simon Reeves. He runs Candor lobbying." Marcus leaned forward. "Then we confront him, publicly." Maya sighed. "There's one catch." Veronica looked up. "They're preparing a coordinated media blackout. We go public. They suppress it in Europe. They make the whistleblower look like a terrorist." Marcus's jaw clenched. "Then we need a simultaneous release. Switzerland, US, EU. Media blackout won't hold globally." Veronica nodded. "I've got contacts in Swiss press. They need minutes." Maya typed. "I'll trigger networks in the morning. We release in Geneva, Zurich, London. Secure channels, verified docs, simultaneous." Outside, the wind hit harder, sounding like thunder. Inside, they worked under soft lamplight, hands flying across keyboards. The USB data decrypted, verified. Candlepoint's audio logs confirmed. The plan. Access Chander. Initiate no. Confidence leaks. Create narrative collapse. The team reorganized strategy. They would target Reeves and his partners with explosive leaks, timed with a press conference in Geneva. Marcus would appear live, with Maya and Veronica by his side, offering full transparency, releasing internal files, denouncing Candlepoint's mercenary tactics, exonerating his name. By 2 a.m., they had a finalized presentation suite, press release, file archive, and social media embargoes for coordinated release. Veronica paused at the chalet door before leaving. She looked weary, hopeful, regretful. "I can't come back to New York." Maya placed a hand on her arm. "Not yet, but this changes everything." Veronica gave a small nod. "Thank you for hearing me." She stepped into the snow, leaving Marcus and Maya inside the glow of their task. Dawn came quicker than expected. The chalet windows opened to pale morning light. Outside, snowflakes fell silently. Inside, the team gathered, faces hardened but resolute. "Let's end this," Marcus whispered. Maya pressed send. And at 8 a.m. Geneva time, the story exploded. The war had just taken its most decisive turn. They had crossed the Atlantic and returned with the truth. By 8 o'clock Geneva time, the press feeds lit up like a fireworks show. News outlets in London, Zurich, New York, and Sydney all carried the breaking headline, "Langston versus Candlepoint, the Swiss reveal." Within minutes, social media channels flooded with shared links, commentary, and server-gathered screenshots. The number #TruthAtDawn hashtag went viral. Every angle of the story, from the chalet confession to internal audio logs, was being dissected, debated, amplified. At the Geneva press conference, Marcus stood beside Maya at a sleek podium outside the Palais de Rumine. He wore a dark coat over his suit, breath visible in the crisp morning air. He cleared his throat, scanning the sea of reporters packed before him. Behind them, Veronica watched from the shadows protected by Marcus's Swiss counsel team, unseen by the cameras. "Good morning," he began, voice steady. "I stand here today not to deny wrongdoing, but to correct it. My company, Langston Systems, was infiltrated by a coordinated campaign engineered by Candlepoint and operated through Chimera, an AI I helped design but never meant to weaponize. Their goal: destabilize trust, seize power, and profit from chaos." He paused, allowing the silence to settle. Maya watched his profile, noticing the tension loosen just slightly. Not relief. "In the past 48 hours, we have released internal communications, server logs, AI command sequences, and the names of those responsible. Today, I am calling for immediate international inquiry into Candlepoint's activities, and for Congress, the EU Parliament, and the Swiss Federal Office to join forces in ensuring private intelligence firms are bound by law and ethics. Reporters erupted. Questions rattled through the crowd, handfuls about Phoenix Directive, Chimera's current status, and, most pointedly, where is Veronica Langston? Marcus glanced at Maya. She nodded slightly, signaling the moment was near. He continued. Miss Langston's contributions to exposing this truth were essential. She remains beyond my reach at this time, but her message echoes across borders. Phones flashed. Veronica exhaled. The reporter's frenzy swelled. The operation had succeeded. Back in Geneva, behind closed doors, Marcus, Maya, and legal teams monitored the global reaction. The firestorm of investigative interest grew, with Candlepoint's assets frozen in several jurisdictions within 2 hours. Hedge funds retracted short positions. Meanwhile, Senator Griggs from New York publicly called for regulation on private lobbying networks. News from Switzerland arrived quickly. Candlepoint's Geneva safehouse was raided. Elena Bianchi was taken into protective custody. Simon Reeves, Candlepoint's CEO, was located but not yet in custody. His phone was ringing, meaningless buzz, a everyone vanishing from his contact list. Maya leaned back in the conference room chair. We did it. Marcus nodded, but his smile never fully formed. Yes, but collateral damage remains. Maya looked at him. Veronica's safe. Elena's safe. Now the battle shifts to policy and legacy. He nodded again. And this is where we rebuild. That afternoon, in a private meeting with Geneva Council, Marcus signed testimony documents pledging cooperation and assistance. Maya reviewed the final transcripts, ensuring no legal anomalies remained. Veronica's federal counsel submitted letters of intent. Candlepoint's legal team countered with silent, strategic, but thin. But somewhere, amid the legal exchange, a hidden threat lurked. A message landed in Maya's secure inbox from an anonymous source. They have your mother. She froze. Later that evening, New York. The Langston estate stood silent. Inside, Marcus and Maya reviewed policy drafts for congressional aides and EU advisors. The press conference played in the background, reporters still speculating on who Veronica really is, how she would return, what would come next. Then Maya's phone buzzed again. Another message. They live in Harlem. Act or she dies. Her breath caught. Marcus noticed. What is it? She held up the phone. They threatened my mother. He stood, face set. This is beyond boardroom policy. Maya shut off her phone with trembling hands. We don't know who they are. They had been Candlepoint's alia specialist fixers wherever dirt needed burying. They had no loyalty except contract, which meant they could be anywhere, at any cost. Marcus's jaw clenched. We draw a map. Maya shook her head. I did that. Nothing yet. Then we go to the source. Geneva track Riley. Or they go after you in broad daylight. She stared at him. We can't send 8 private security teams after shadow mercenaries globally. Then we go deeper, Marcus said. We hit them with leaks, the kind that expose not just Candlepoint, but every contractor that works with them. Maya leaned forward. We'll need congressional backing. Press iterations. Simultaneous leak Swiss dossier tonight. U.S. Senator statement tomorrow. He nodded. Make it happen. At dawn the next day, journalists across global networks reported on Candlepoint's mercenary network exposed, from Geneva to Harlem. Records, memos, contracts surfaced, naming enforcers working for hiresome links, tying to known fixer agencies with dark histories. They named continents. They named companies. One name landed closest to Maya's heart. Wires LLC, registered in Pennsylvania. Front company, last listed address, Crown Heights, Brooklyn. Her mother lived there. Maya's phone rang. It was her mother's landline. She answered, voice tight. Mom, are you okay? Sweetheart, is that you? Her mother's voice trembled. They came last night. I locked the door. They left a message. Your daughter is next unless he steps down. They said they won't harm me. Maya closed her eyes, breathing deep. Mom, listen, you stay inside. Call no one but me. I'll protect you. I'm scared, her mother said softly. Maya swallowed hard. I know, Mom, but you're not alone. She ended the call, turning to Marcus. It's real. He nodded. They scare through you. That's their tactic. Maya clenched her fists. They underestimate what we're capable of. He studied her, admiration behind his eyes. Then we give them a lesson. That afternoon, Langston Systems launched a global subpoena. Wires LLC, Candlepoint's Ghost Enforcers, and Front Networks. Congressional panels convened. Legal teams moved. At the same time, the company's cybersecurity division enacted blocking measures on assets linked to Wires LLC servers. Their digital image dissolved. Media drove. International oversight commenced. Maya flew to Brooklyn under deep cover, accompanied by 2 covert agents. They stationed outside her mother's brownstone. Security blankets, cameras, silent radios. Inside, her mother paced, coffee in hand. Maya embraced her. I'm here. You're safe. Her mother whispered, Be careful. Maya replied, voice fierce. I will be. Return to the estate. News reports exploded. Langston's inner circle strikes back. Whistleblower becomes protector. Cyber-psychological warfare. Public figures under siege. Commentators praised Langston's transparency and resilience, while condemning Candlepoint and associated firms. Marcus watched it all with Maya by his side. Her mother's safety was secured, her faith reaffirmed. He took her hand. You saved more than my company. Maya squeezed his fingers. We saved more than just this war. They stood together, real allies forged in adversity. In a final shooting scene for the chapter, candles flickered in the Harlem brownstone. Maya's mother lit them off camera. Upstairs, Maya sat at her childhood desk, drafting an email to international media asking for coverage of Candlepoint's disbanding orders. She ended with, This is more than business. It's about trust, protection, and the right to safety for every family. She hit send. Down the block, under a silent sky, Marcus's digital campaign had pushed Wires LLC into dissolution. Candlepoint's assets, too. The war for truth had turned. Battleground now. Policy, culture, accountability. And Maya? She was more than a crisis chief. She was a daughter, a protector, and a force to be reckoned with. They had won a battle, but this war for the soul of privacy was only just beginning. Winter's end crept slowly into New York as days lengthened, but the aftershocks of the Candlepoint campaign still rippled through boardrooms, courtrooms, and headlines. In the Langston Estate's restored library-turned-crisis center, Marcus and Maya leaned over new Philesa dossier, lined with global media coverage, legal briefs, and intelligence on canceled contracts and enforcements. Their strategic offensive was working, but they both knew the greatest test lay ahead: accountability. A month ago, Marcus said, tapping a press clipping titled, Langston Systems, A New Era of Transparency. Nobody saw any of this coming. Now, we're essentially rewriting privacy regulations. But to make it stick, we can't just expose away, need to institutionalize. Maya nodded. It's time to bring in supportive voices, lawmakers, scholars, even tech rivals. We need champions for ethical AI, for surveillance safeguards. Marcus leaned back. We have one advantage: they're expecting us to react. We go on offense. They invited 3 key guests the next day. Senator Griggs from New York, Dr. Elaine Harper, AI ethics professor at Princeton, and Julian Carr's former mentor, Rebecca Yang, now a prominent corporate governance expert. The gathering took place in a private wing of the estate. The mood was considerate but urgent. Senator Griggs spoke first. Langston Systems catalyzed something unexpected but essential. The Phoenix Directive's exposure risked my re-election. But the choice to own it? That made me believe in their integrity. Dr. Harper iterated the danger of unfettered algorithmic manipulation. Chimera was the first demonstration of what I call weaponized data truth. We need pre-approval boards, risk audits, transparency mandates. Rebecca Yang drew graphs. Corporate governance thrives not on silence, but on accountability. I've been in boards where concealment is default. You've forced a reset. Maya stepped forward. We propose a 3-part initiative: independent AI ethics reviews, mandatory whistleblower pathways, and international treaties regulating data weaponization. We're ready to fund pilot programs. Marcus listened, absorbing each voice. He then looked across the table. Will you join us as founding council members? They all nodded, some warmly, others with cautious smiles. Within days, Langston Systems announced the Integrity Charter, supported by bipartisan bills in the US and the EU, alongside guidelines drafted by leading universities. Candlepoint and associated firms were under formal investigation. Veronica's documents were sealed under international cooperation agreements, protecting her from prosecution in exchange for testimony. Inside the estate, Maya found Veronica in the Swiss mountain chalet, where she'd returned to close personal affairs. Veronica had agreed to fly to New York not for confrontation, but for the official unveiling of the Integrity Charter. Their reunion had been brief verbal formality, guarded smiles but beneath the veneer. Something fragile and unspoken remained. Veronica had helped to collapse the empire she once built with Marcus, and now she was returning to witness its rebirth. On the morning of the Integrity Charter ceremony, spring sun flooded the courtyard. Attendees included lawmakers, regulators, tech executives, academics, and the press. A stage stood prepared, and Marcus took the podium first. He spoke not as a CEO, but as someone with grave mistakes in the past, someone who chose to rise. Maya watched from the sidelines. Veronica arrived late, entering with quiet grace. Their eyes met briefly. Maya sensed emotion, Styringa, mixture of relief, regret, hope. After Marcus, Maya spoke. She shared her journey from housemaid to crisis leader, her brush with threats and violence, her drive to protect lives beyond corporate value. She finished, voice steady. Accountability isn't weakness, it's strength. The crowd responded with applause. Veronica stepped forward, unannounced. She addressed the audience softly. I left because I feared the empire was built on the wrong foundations. I returned because we can build it anew. She handed Marcus the final signed document. But amid the applause, Marcus spotted Julian Karras, former acquisitions head, watching from the back row. Julian had been convicted for insider conspiracy and sentenced in absentia, but had returned quietly under immunity to testify. Their eyes locked. Marcus nodded. Julian dropped his gaze. Recognition, remorse, acceptance. That night, as the crowd dispersed, candlelight illuminated the estate's courtyard tables. Guests sipped wine and toasted the new pledge for transparency. Maya slipped away from the bustle to the balcony, where Marcus joined her. Below them, Gregory Griggs and Dr. Harper were deep in conversation. Marcus handed Maya a glass. To beginnings. She raised her glass. To trust regained. He looked at her earnestly. I can't go back to the man hiding behind walls. Because of you and because of what we started today, I know I won't. Maya nodded, tears glimmering in the light. We don't go back. We go forward. They toasted. The city skyline spread beyond them, a symbol of power harnessed responsibly. Later, as guests emptied, Maya headed inside. She paused by the library door. Veronica was there, quietly packing her coat. Good night, Veronica said softly. Thank you, Maya replied, for everything. Veronica paused. Then, placing an envelope on the mantel, she said, for your mother. Maya took it. Inside was a check, enough to secure her mother's future, plus a note. You deserve safety, financially and in peace. Maya looked up. Veronica nodded and faded into the night air. In the quiet library, Marcus and Maya sat side by side. The fire had burned low. He placed a folder before Maya. Blueprints for a global foundation, Integrity International. You'll lead it, he said. Maya opened it, eyes on the plans, then up at him. Together? He smiled softly. Together. They leaned into the night, partners, not just in work, but in purpose. To protect others from truth's orphaned edges, armed now with accountability, resilience, and the promise of a new world built on transparency. The fight for privacy and justice would continue, but for the first time, they weren't fighting alone. And in that echo of truth, they found not defeat, but reconciliation and the real beginning of hope. Winter's thaw had given way to early summer warmth, and Manhattan's Riverside Drive was alive with newfound energy. After weeks of strategic meetings, public hearings, and global press releases, Langston Systems and its Integrity International Foundation had begun to shape a new framework for ethical AI and corporate transparency. Amidst it all, Maya and Marcus found themselves navigating uncharted territory not just professionally, but personally. That morning, Marcus walked into the library-turned-strategy room with a soft determination in his eyes. Maya was already seated at the long oak table, laptops open, board documents front and center. Sunlight spilled through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating pages marked with red highlighter, notes crowded with ideas, rough drafts highlighting the future they were building. "It's official," Marcus announced, gently setting a leather-bound binder before her. "The Foundation's incorporation papers, vouched endorsements, security clearance protocols all signed and sealed. Integrity International is now a legal entity in 3 countries. First grant allocations hit next week." Maya exhaled, eyes still fixed on the documents. "We did it. It's real." He nodded, but his gaze drifted to the city skyline. "We did, but this is when the real work begins." For Maya, the gravity of that Momenta foundation built on revelations, betrayals, and the blurred shadows of moral courage hit like a tidal wave. She looked at Marcus, her partner forged in crisis, the man who trusted her when few did, and who had given her a purpose far beyond walls and whispers. "We're not just closing a chapter," she replied. "We're writing a whole new book." They dove into planning. First, a pilot program. Community centers in Harlem and London, designed to teach citizens about digital privacy and tools for identifying AI misinformation. Next, partnerships with universities to develop an ethical AI certification for corporations, an integrity seal, to be awarded to companies that met transparency and accountability standards. Amid brainstorming, Marcus stood and fetched 2 mugs of tea. He returned and sat across from Maya. He looked beyond her, pulling words from a place older than business. "I want you to know, this, with you, has been the best part." Maya set her pen down, feeling a familiar shift inside. "I feel the same." He paused a delicate beat. I'm glad you stayed." She smiled, quiet and strong. "I didn't stay because I had to. I stayed because I wanted to." The space between them felt new, a distance closed, but chords still unwritten. Their conversation was interrupted by Darren's voice over the secure line. "You have a visitor." Moments later, Veronica entered. She looked different this time, lighter, relieved, and yet her presence carried a gravity of transformation. She crossed the room, eyes meeting Maya's with something unspoken, then turned to Marcus. "I'm here to help," she said, voice steady. He nodded. "We need your insight on the European rollout. The data sharing frameworks are different. We're expanding Integrity International across EU markets." Veronica sat and opened her own laptop. "I've been talking to privacy NGOs in Berlin and Paris. They've got drafts. If we adapt our protocols, we can align with GDPR and new AI directives." Maya joined in, coordinating Veronica's research on regulation with global consultation. Darren updated them on CME feedback and corporate requests for membership. The synergy in that room, 3 people born from conflict, now building a common platform, felt almost surreal. By noon, they had mapped the first international conference in Berlin, with guest speakers from academia, government, and civil rights movements representing people aged 45 and above, who understood too well the cost of unchecked power, racism, and institutional betrayal. Later in the afternoon, Maya and Marcus attended a Senate hearing on the Integrity Charter's U.S. companion bills. Among the spectators were families of privacy advocates, legal scholars, and representatives of formerly targeted communities, including survivors from Marcus's hometown, and a local NAACP chapter representative who had followed Maya's journey. Maya watched as Marcus delivered testimony with precision and humility. Unlike his earlier press conference, this was sober and structured. He referenced community feedback, acknowledged continued vulnerabilities, and pledged foundation-led oversight. She felt pride, but also the weight of their ambition. The bills would create the board, establish whistleblower protections, and offer citizen redress pathways. His words resonated with seasoned lawmakers, but also with people who had lived through surveillance abuses. After the hearing, Maya found herself speaking with the representative from the NAACP. The man, in his mid-60s, thanked her. "It's not often we see someone from here, from my neighborhood, at these tables. You've done more than just policy work. You've stood in the line for us." Her eyes misted. "It's shared responsibility, and we're just beginning." That night, back at the estate, they debriefed. Veronica reported on EU partners, Darren on US funding committees, Maya on outreach feedback. Marcus proposed a private gala at the Med in 2 months to announce grant recipients, showcase early results, and solidify cross-sector alliances. As they planned, Maya reflected on how far they'd come, from poisoning threats at a gala, to boardroom betrayals, to chasing shadows across continents, and now positioning themselves as architects of a new digital age. She went upstairs later and found Marcus on the balcony. The city lights glimmered below in the summer hush. He held 2 glasses of iced green tea. He handed her one. They spoke quietly, listening to the distant hum of evening traffic. "What scares you?" he asked. She considered, looking over the water. "That we'll compromise, lose our edge. That bureaucracy will suffocate our message." He nodded. "We'll have to guard that." She leaned into him, shoulders soft. "Promise me we won't lose sight of why we started." He kissed her head. "I promise." As they stood together on the balcony, the city stretching before them like a promise and a warning, Maya thought about her mother in Brooklyn safe, supported. Veronica rebuilding in Europe. Julian Carr, arriving under immunity, a chance at redemption. Senator Griggs and Dr. Harper committed, candle point broken, and somewhere, the ember of trust glowing across communities. Their foundation wasn't just an institution, it was a beacon. And now, somewhere beyond tomorrow, someone would believe again that privacy matters. They lifted their glasses in unspoken unity. To the next chapter. And as they did, the skyline shimmered with hope, not just for them, but for the voices yet unheard, stories yet untold, and digital worlds yet to be humanely governed. The fight continued, but this time, it was building, not breaking, nurturing, not destroying. And that was the true reckoning of their journey. Summer had settled fully over New York City, and the Langston estate hummed with renewed energy. Through the open windows, the murmurs of the East River mixed with the rustle of roses climbing the terrace walls. Inside, the Integrity International Executive Office buzzed with purpose. Maya stood before a wall of screens displaying global outreach metrics. Marcus, arms folded, reviewed a live feed panel from Berlin. Veronica consulted quietly with a visiting EU delegate. Their alliance, once formed amid crisis, had become the forefront of a movement. Maya tapped the wall. "Our pilot centers in Harlem and East London have launched. Enrollment's strong 68% turnout from our target demographic in the first week." Marcus nodded, expression focused. "The mobile training workshops are scheduled next month. We'll stream portions for areas with no center access." Veronica turned with bright eyes. Berlin official report came in 100% compliance among local regulators. Ethical AI protocols accepted unanimously. Maya smiled briefly. "Looks like we're not just talking, we're delivering." Their moment of triumph was interrupted by the sharp ring of Marcus's secure line. He answered it, listening intently. After a pause, he lowered the phone. That was the CFO. "Our U.S. Integrity Charter funding is at risk. Some conservative senators are pressuring to suspend federal support over Phoenix Directive admissions." Maya's smile faded. "They're weaponizing us again." Marcus stared at her. "They know the public wants transparency. But in Washington, truth is still a liability, if not spun correctly." Veronica laid a hand on his arm. "Let them push. We push back faster." He turned to Maya. "Draft a position paper tonight. Frame it as national security interest, consumer protection. We're just beginning to codify these changes." Maya nodded. "Agreed." The rest of the day passed in a flurry. Press interviews, coordination meetings with diplomats, late-night council sessions. By midnight, Maya delivered a 5-page strategy memo that reframed Integrity International as a pillar of democratic resilience. Wearing fatigue yet determination, she left the study, heading toward the terrace. Marcus followed. She gazed upward at the stars above Riverside Drive. He stood beside her, eyes soft. "You're carrying the burden of this movement." She looked at him, strength equal to his. "You gave me the tools." He hesitated, then sighed. I have a call tomorrow with Senator Griggs and Chairman Davis. We need your presence. Her throat tightened. I'll be there. They shared a moment of closeness, the night air tempered two souls forged through crisis now linked in destiny. The next morning, they joined an online roundtable with lawmakers in D.C. Maya presented her policy brief. Veronica answered EU regulatory clarifications, and Marcus advocated for a bipartisan oversight board linking government and private sector. The Senate hearing streamed live citizens' tweets flooded the feed, praising the initiative. When the roundtable ended, Maya exhaled hard. Her phone chime brought uneasy news. Harlem Center alert. Protest group mobilizing. She opened the report. A local activist group claimed Integrity International was pushing Silicon Valley narratives that undermined African American autonomy. They demanded indigenous leadership and questioned corporate motives. Maya grimaced. They're framing us as tokenism. Marcus appeared at her side. Let's address it head-on. On site in Harlem within hours, Maya, Marcus, and Veronica met with activists in the Community Arts Center. The space was vibrant with murals, faces, fists, messages. Emotions were raw, suspicion clear. A woman elder, Miss Jenkins, led the group. We respect the work, but we don't want corporate patronage. We want ownership. We want to lead, not be helped. Maya listened, her heart heavy. Veronica joined in. This isn't top-down. The foundation offers grants, but you control the programs. Marcus spoke softly. Our intention is empowerment, not oversight. We want community-designed curricula. The atmosphere softened. The community's concerns met with sincerity. Later, Maya walked with Miss Jenkins through the courtyard. I grew up near here, she said. My mom still lives on the block. This is personal. Miss Jenkins nodded. Then let's show the people together. By sunset, the activists had agreed to a collaborative pilot board. Maya felt hope bloom again, true change grounded in trust. Back at the estate that evening, they debriefed. Lesson learned, Marcus said. We're powerful but not infallible. Veronica added. And not excluding voices makes us stronger. Maya stared at the Harlem commitment line. And deeper. Night light washed over the three as they realized. Accountability wasn't static. It was a commitment renewed every day with every voice heard. Maya opened her laptop, writing the community report pages. Marcus joined, sipping tea. Veronica watched warmly. In that moment, they weren't just rebuilding, they were redefining power itself, rooted in community, guarded by truth, guided by conscience. And the ripples they set into motion would reshape more than policy. They would redefine the relationship between technology, trust, and humanity itself. The foundation stood firm, but the journey had only begun. Early autumn wrapped Manhattan in crisp air and golden light as the Integrity International team prepared for its first global summit. Delegates from tech firms, governments, academic institutions, civil rights groups, and indigenous communities gathered in the Langston Estate's garden pavilion. The vines overhead had turned red, echoing the shared warmth of purpose that now drove the Foundation's mission. Maya stood at the registration desk, greeting arriving participants. Her voice carried calm confidence. Eyes sparkled with anticipation. She watched Veronica coordinating translation teams for simultaneous sessions in French and Italian. Marcus quietly passed between tables, exchanging handshakes with EU commissioners and indigenous leaders. Their alliance, born in crisis, now shone as an emblem of transformative leadership. At 10 a.m., the summit opened. Marcus took the stage, addressing hundreds in the Oval Garden setup and thousands more via livestream. Welcome to the inaugural Global Summit for Ethical AI and Transparency, he began. We're here to redefine trust in technology, in institutions, in people. Today, we share progress, face challenges, and forge commitments stronger than words alone. He introduced Veronica to present core principles of the Integrity Charter, followed by Maya's keynote, Community-Led Accountability in the Digital Age. As Maya spoke about Harlem's pilot board, mobile workshops, and how grassroots wisdom shaped technological safeguards, she saw nods, notes digitally shared, and eyes lighting up with kinship. Among the speakers was an elder activist who developed a curriculum for seniors, offering digital literacy tailored for older adults. Their applause was heartfelt. During a lunch break, Maya joined Veronica and Marcus at a long wooden table. Plates of seasonal produce and local fish awaited them. Veronica raised a glass. "To us who built something real." Marcus smiled. "To every voice we've listened to along the way." Maya touched her mug. "To everyone who helped us earn it." Their reflections were interrupted by Senator Griggs, taking his seat beside them. "Maya, Marcus Brava, your summit sets a new direction for policy. The bipartisan bill now has co-sponsors from 4 additional states." He turned to Veronica. "And your European coalition is drafting cross-border enforcement protocols. Your contribution was critical." Veronica nodded. "We still have work to align GDPR and US standards, but we're making progress." They spoke late into the afternoon about upcoming international committees, public workshops, and digital tools that families could use to report AI misuse. Their unity, once fragile, was now strong and expansive. In the evening, the summit concluded with a candlelight vigil in the garden. Participants lit candles from a communal flame, a symbolic gesture. Collective candle, bearing in the fight against darkness. Voices rose in unison, a chant for responsibility and care. Marcus stepped forward. "Tonight, these lights signify our shared commitment. In the face of today's challenges, let our candle shine for every person who deserves safety, clarity, and dignity." Maya and Veronica followed, lighting their candles together, hands brushing. Their eyes met not only as allies, but as something deeper. Co-creators of a legacy that would outlast risks, threats, betrayals. Later, after guests dispersed, Marcus, Maya, and Veronica lingered by the final lit candles. The city lay beyond the wrought iron fences, lights, smaller echoes of ideals they guarded. Veronica spoke softly. "All this resonance makes it worth it." Maya stepped close. "We did what we set out to do, and we've helped countless others find their voice." Marcus looked at both of them. "You turned chaos into purpose. This was never just about saving a company. It's about changing the world." The 3 stood together as the first summit came to a close. There were smiles, tears, perhaps promises unspoken, but also awareness. Their work would continue, horizons would widen, challenges would grow. Before parting for the night, Marcus handed Maya a small, wrapped box. She unfastened it and found a simple silver pin engraved with the Integrity International logo. "You wear it," he said. "Not because you need it, but because you earned it." Maya placed it on her lapel. Veronica and Marcus shared a glance and a quiet moment of fulfillment. The next morning, Maya returned to Harlem. She visited the community center, watching elders laugh as they learned video call basics. Children proudly showed parents how to spot misinformation via mobile apps. Maya's mother greeted her with fresh coffee and wide smile. "You look tired," she said, "but you look happy." Maya hugged her mother. "We're on our way, Mom. We're making a difference." Months later, newspapers and journals carried stories of volunteer groups adopting Integrity International's curriculum in Southeast Asia and South America. Universities launched scholarships in Maya's name. Tech conferences invited Veronica as a thought leader. Marcus received an honorary award for corporate responsibility. He cheekily remarked was less complicated to build than Langston systems. Yet, amid accolades, day 1 of the foundation remained etched in their hearts not as a memory, but as a guiding North Star. Maya looked at sunflowers planted in the estate's courtyard that spring planted in honor of lost voices. She read the message engraved on the commemorative plaque. "We light candles not because we fear darkness, but because we believe in light." They had rebuilt trust brick by brick, heart by heart. Their legacy was not in revenue or power, but in real lives safeguarded. Conversations started, principles renewed. Maya stepped back inside where Marcus awaited. He offered her his arm. She took it. They walked through the garden, ribbons of sunset fading into night, voices of future summits humming in the breeze. Together, they carried a new world into being. And as the last light faded, the promise of dawn remained. The story teaches us that true integrity is not inherited through power or wealth, but forged through courage, accountability, and the willingness to confront injustice even when it comes from within. It reminds us that healing begins with truth, that unity is born from listening, and that the quiet acts of standing up for what's right can ripple outward, transforming not just systems but hearts. In a world overwhelmed by noise and deception, the greatest legacy we can leave is one built on transparency, compassion, and the unwavering belief that justice belongs to everyone.